Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good evening, Shabbat Shalom. I want to invite you to come in and find a seat, find a prayer book so that we can begin our service together this evening. This is a night of celebration, a night of vision and memory and excitement and transition. This is a night of celebration and community and togetherness and song and celebration. We are delighted to be together to welcome this Shabbat as a community of friends and congregants and worshipers alike. This evening we will begin in our prayer books on page 20, this opening hymn, Lecha Dodi, for which we'll be singing verses 1, 5, and 9, page 20. Shabbat. Having welcomed Shabbat, we take just a moment now to welcome those around us.
Shabbat Shalom.
Okay, goodbye.
You're writing on it, aren't you?
Okay. Friends, welcome back. I want to invite you to take a seat once you've wished a Shabbat Shalom to those nearby. Thank you for helping make this space a warm and welcoming place of prayer and community. I also want to make sure everyone's taking just a moment to turn off their cell phones so that we can enjoy an evening of prayer and learning and togetherness uninterrupted by the outside world as best we can. And so once you've taken a moment to do that, to welcome in the light and warmth and glow of Shabbat, it is a delight for me to invite up this weekend's bar mitzvah, J.J. Selk, to join us up on the bima, accompanied by his parents, Pam and Jeff. As they make their way up to the bima, we'll begin with the lighting of the Shabbat candles in your books on page 3.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue with Baruch Hu on page 28. Please rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach.
An alternate rendering of Ma'ariv Aravim not found in your book. Beloved are you, eternal God, by whose design the evening falls, by whose command dimensions open up and eons pass away and stars spin in their orbits. You set the rhythm of day and night, the alternation of light and darkness sings your creating word. In rising sun and in spreading dusk, creator of all, you made manifest. Eternal, everlasting God, may we always be aware of your dominion. Beloved are you, Adonai, for this hour of nightfall. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. We pray together responsively in the middle of page 33. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol.
All these things your Torah gives to us.
And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives.
What could be a truer token of your abiding love
Than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. be seated. We pray together on page 37. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your visions. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gates. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai your God. Responsively in the middle of page 39. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
We continue with gratitude for the gift of Shabbat with Vishamru on page 44.
Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, la'asot et HaShabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat,
It is my pleasure to invite up J.J. Silk to lead us in the Amidah, which begins on page 46, and invite you please to rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei Hakol, ve'Zocher Chastei Avot ve'imaot, u'mevi gula livnei b'neihem, lema'an shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atav rav le'oshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asarim, Umekayei emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al givurot, Umidom elach, Melech memit umekayen, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah l'chachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalalu ha'selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated. We continue with Ritzei on page 56.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, be'amecha Yisrael, u'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel,
We take a few moments now for silent prayer and gratitude. When we return together, we'll be on page 62.
It is a pleasure for me to invite Kathy Marks to the bima to add her voice to our prayers. As Kathy makes her way up to the bima to join with Cantor Simmons, we pause for just a moment now to offer this prayer of healing. Mishberach is found on page 253. So while you make your way there with your fingers, I want to ask you to make your way to a certain place with your hearts and your thoughts as well. When we pray for healing, this is a profound and unique exercise during which we reach outside of ourselves to think about others and pray on their behalf. And so on this Shabbat, we offer these prayers of healing on behalf of Bernie Berman, Bradley Borden, Melba Berman, Jennifer Carey, Michelle Cohen, Miles Cohn, Richard Dana, Diane Dante, Larry Felt, Roseanne Finkel, Alan Garber, Marcine Goldman, Sarah James, Lou Kravitz, Barry Kurtz, Lawrence Levy, Robert Mendelson, Greg Orsak, Valerie Pugh, Roger Williams, Esther Batzipora, and Chenya Rachel Mindel Bataharon Batzipora. on page 253, we add our prayers together. This is a night for all kinds of blessings and gratitude and abundance. Tonight we honor two groups of significant people whose influence in the history of this congregation have made it what it is today. This evening we honor our founding families and their descendants and those who have served as presidents of our congregation. At this time of blessing, I want to invite those of our past presidents who are with us this evening to please rise as you are able. At times of blessing and thanksgiving, times of transition and acknowledgement and gratitude, it is our custom to ask God's threefold blessing on one another. And so it is a pleasure and a great privilege to ask God's blessing on these who have led this congregation. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, you have sustained and you have nourished this congregation with your leadership. You have empowered it to transmit the sacred wisdom and traditions of our people, to bring Torah and tradition to members of every age. May God bless you and keep you. You have worked alongside those who lead this congregation, lay people, staff people, and clergy people, working together to bring the light of justice, compassion, and faithful service to God's broken world. May God's face shine upon you. May God always be gracious to you. You have borne witness to the lives of the many, many member families of this congregation. You have accompanied them on the winding roads of their lives. You have helped the members of this holy congregation elevate themselves so that they can search in every hour for God's presence in their lives. And so for your dedication to our community, for your devoted service and generosity, I ask God's blessing upon you. May God lift you up. May God grant you wholeness and fulfillment and peace. Amen. Thank you. Friends, just a few announcements about some upcoming events in the calendar and in this evening's festivities. We hope that you'll stay with us through the end of our service tonight so that we can offer the blessings of Kiddush and Motzi together as a community this week. The challah and wine over which we'll offer those blessings have been offered by the Silk family in honor of JJ's bar mitzvah, and we are grateful to them for their generosity. If you picked up a Shabbat handout on your way in, you can see some detail about upcoming events in our community in there. There's more information I'll mention in there and also in our temple bulletin and on the website. I want to start by offering a most enthusiastic and heartfelt thank you to all of the volunteers whose hard work has made tonight's Heritage Shabbat service and reception possible. It's their hard work, their time, their love and devotion that have enabled us to recognize these past presidents, the founding families, and their descendants who have made this congregation reach this milestone 75th anniversary. I want to just pause to make a special mention to thank Sue Baum and Sarah Brook, Kathy and Gary Marks, and Judy Sachs, who chaired this evening's event, which was a very meaningful and moving component of this 75th anniversary year of celebration. I also want to offer my thanks for the production of our newspaper handout this evening. I feel a little bit like a rabbi of a previous generation who's not hoping that the congregants will keep from reading their cell phones, but instead from reading the newspaper in the pews. So my thanks and the thanks of all of this congregation's clergy and staff are with all of you tonight. Thank you for everything you did. Our volunteer choir will host its annual showcase entitled Back to Broadway on Sunday, December 15th, 4:30 p.m. There's more information in your Shabbat handout. We are now open for RSVPs for our annual Egg Foo Shabbos dinner after services Friday, December the 20th. Even if Chinese food isn't your thing at the end of December, I want to encourage you please to come that evening so that we'll have an opportunity to watch the short documentary film Ever Open that was produced with love and devotion and exceedingly hard work by our congregant Stephen Fenberg. We'll have an opportunity to watch that short documentary film that evening. If you missed it at our Ever Open celebration, please don't miss the chance to see it on Egg Foo Shabbos, Friday, December 20th. Lastly, 2 short notes about logistics. At the conclusion of our service tonight, I want to invite all of you to join us for an Oneg Shabbat in the Oshman Multipurpose Room and the Rotunda. And I want to make a special request to all of the past presidents and the members of the founding families who are here this evening to stay behind here in the Barish Sanctuary for a few moments after the conclusion of our service so that we can take a few photos on the steps of the bima. When the scene opens, our forefather Jacob has paused in his journey on the trip he's taking from Beersheba to Haran. The road is long and the travel is difficult and the sun is going down. The reason for Jacob's journey is twofold. He's moving deliberately toward the nomadic communities of northern Mesopotamia to find a wife from among the tribes specified by his father. But he's also moving swiftly because he was trying to get away from something back home. His twin brother, Esau. Esau, whom he had outwitted at every turn. Esau, whom he had manipulated and taken advantage of to obtain an undeserved birthright and an unearned fortune. Esau was after him, with vengeance and violence on his mind. And so Jacob was moving quickly, scrambling toward a future that held great promise and racing away from a past that held peril and danger. And so as he stopped for the night in an unremarkable place with no name, Jacob lay down to sleep with a stone for a pillow, and he dreamed. In that dream, Jacob saw a vision, a celestial ladder that stretched from earth up to heaven, with angels climbing and descending its luminous rungs. And as he awoke, alone in the darkness, he could not help exclaiming, "Aha! God is in this place, and I had no idea." That moment with the ladder is a watershed of Jacob's transformation into the boy he was, becoming the man he will be. Jacob the cynic becomes a believer. Jacob the egotist is finally made humble. Jacob, the escape artist, is content at last to be held tightly in the arms of something larger and more powerful than himself. This moment of personal change is pivotal to what we know about Jacob's character and his legacy. But for the rabbis of antiquity, this moment with the ladder is significant for another reason. The rabbis point out in the Talmud that while all of the patriarchs, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, while all of them had powerful and enduring connections with God, Jacob deserves special mention because he did something that no one else in his family or his tribe had been able to do before. Jacob found God in the darkness. Jacob was the first one whose story teaches that we can come to know the presence of something holy when it's dark. Jacob's legacy isn't only about the way that self-centeredness can give way to an expansive heart. It teaches us also about how the cultivation of faith during the times of the soul's deepest darkness can make us into something new. That's the sort of awakening that can become a source of courage that makes it possible for us to tell a story about our life that has always been yearning to be told. Jacob's ladder is a reminder for us to return to the big questions that accompany us on our lives' journey. What would you do if you had more courage? What things do you feel unable to accomplish because you lack the strength and fortitude to do so? When I talk about courage on this particular bima, at this particular night, in this particular year of our temple's history, I'm not talking about heroism or about the kind of bravery that appears when you temporarily convince yourself that you cannot fail. I'm not talking about the kind of New Age positive thinking that refuses to admit that failure is a possibility, a kind of mind over matter that you use to suppress fear. Instead, I'm talking about the specific sort of courage that is demonstrated when we decide that we might fail, but we are willing to try anyway. It's a certain kind of courage that is made manifest in the willingness to risk loss or shame or embarrassment or disappointment. When we're willing to risk pain because the possibility of joy and fulfillment and connection on the other side of it will be worth the trade. If you've ever tended a plant that has grown to the point of outgrowing its pot, you know that at a certain point you have only two choices. You can move the plant to a larger pot, or you can let it die. Both of those options will bring stress on the plant, but only one of them will allow the plant to grow into what it was meant to become, ever since it was a tiny seed. It's a kind of courage that can be found in moments when you discover your deepest values, when you recognize without deception and without pretending the clear outlines of the things that you cannot compromise if you wish to remain living as your truest self. That process by which our courage metabolizes stress into progress is called leadership. Tonight, we honor our past presidents. Tonight, we recognize the families of our founders. All of them have found themselves in unique times that required that sort of courage. Tonight, we celebrate their examples and remember their leadership that allowed them to keep their highest values in sight, regardless of the pressures mounting around them, the kind that allowed them to stay calm in the face of gathering storms stirring up around them. Every president of this congregation at one time or another had to rise to an occasion when leadership was thrust upon them, whether they wanted it or not. Every president of this congregation has had their leadership shaped and defined by factors they never expected or planned for. But all of them and all of the 190 families that founded this congregation can affirm that it is at the times when risk is involved that one's truest self has the opportunity to emerge. This 75th year has been an invitation to look back at the 75 years of our temple's history, to consider the things that motivated the men and women who founded Congregation Emanu, what allowed them to help the people around them see a future that didn't yet exist, to convince their community that they held greater, bolder potential than they previously realized. Like our biblical ancestor Jacob, they founded this place because they found themselves simultaneously pushed away from a past that they found untenable and pulled toward a future that was irresistible. Of all the times in American history, Rabbi Walter and I have often remarked together that it is striking that a group of people in 1944 made the decision to form a synagogue, not merely as Jews living in 1944, but as Americans living through the world's most significant and demanding military conflict in history. That war demanded deep and painful sacrifices from our nation, not just from the men on the front lines shipped off to places they had never known, but from the families also they left behind. American households and communities and businesses had to make real sacrifices to support the war effort. And they didn't do it because the sacrifice was immediately and intrinsically fulfilling. They did it because they knew that the stakes of that war were existentially critical to the soul of this country. They knew that for America to remain America, the battle against tyranny had to be won. Historians today still differ about exactly what the outside world knew about the destruction of Europe's Jewry and when they knew it. But what is undebatable is that for Jews living in America in the spring of 1944, the fight against fascism was not theoretical or ideological, it was personal. It isn't overly dramatic to say that the survival of our people, the survival of our families, depended on every diplomatic twist and military turn of events. That was the moral landscape upon which the first moments of our temple's history would be painted. The men and women knew that the fight for democracy overseas would determine the future of Judaism here at home. The battles of Jewish autonomy there couldn't be separated from Jewish life here. Risk, as I said earlier, is often the crucible in which courage is formed. The perils to Western democracy and Jewish self-determination formed the backdrop to the founding of this congregation, and they were principles so vital, so central to who those founders were, that they knew they couldn't be who they were. They couldn't remain true to their principles as Jews and as Americans without finding a spiritual home that embraced those values. The time was pressing, and their options were few. And so even with Rabbi Kahn overseas, the man whose leadership they yearned to be at the head of this congregation, even with him overseas, the founders couldn't wait to make this congregation become a reality. And so they drew up documents of formation and formed a congregation for themselves. Even before this temple had a name, before it had a building or a permanent rabbi, that courage was the tiny seed planted by their leadership. Of course, we got our name soon, and the process of choosing a name for the newborn congregation was neither capricious nor haphazard. When Rabbi Kahn wrote about it later, he described the choice of a name, Emmanuel, which means God is with us, this way. He wrote, "Emmanuel was born of a cry for freedom, of pulpit and pew, a concern for Kalal Yisrael, the faith of Israel, the land of Israel, the mission of Israel, to bring light to a dark world." Rabbi Kahn talked about the spirit that gave birth to this congregation as a light brought into a dark place. The same realization our forefather Jacob had in the depth of night when he exclaimed to himself, "Aha, God is in this place." Sometimes we can't discover who we really are or who we're meant to become until we are plunged into darkness and forced toward a choice between courageous growth and disappearance. And like Jacob, we rarely know the significance of our decision in that moment. It isn't until our children and grandchildren can thank us for our vision and leadership that we know the depths of our courage. And so that's what we are here. We're here to give thanks that at a time of uncertainty and risk, the leaders of this temple chose as their response an inclination toward freedom and autonomy, to choose to seize their unquenchable faith in the freedom of thought and belief, and in the authentic expression of their innermost selves. It's not an accident, I don't think, that the central image of Jacob's dream was a stairway, a ladder, because it reminds us that enlightenment and growth always happens incrementally, one step at a time, one rung above the one behind it. The light that Rabbi Kahn held grew stronger and brighter in Rabbi Walter's hands. That light lit the path for the generations of clergy that would follow him. The vision cultivated by the hands of those 190 families is nurtured and fed continually by the generations of leaders who still rise to follow them. This is a night of celebration, and it is a night for thanksgiving. It's a night on which we give thanks to God for those who came before us, and on which we ask from God that those who come after us will similarly be blessed by courage. And so I want to end my remarks this evening with a prayer. And I want to invite those of you that are wearing ribbons marking your membership in the families of those who founded this temple, please to rise. Our God and God of all the ancestors before us, in celebration we come together on this Shabbat to offer praise to you. Our rock and redeemer, your steadfast love supports all generations of this congregational family. You give us strength. You endow us with a willingness and determination to continue the work begun 75 years ago by these families. With your guidance, they placed their faith in you, laboring to make your name sacred, and their efforts were not in vain. Through their prayers, their tireless work, and their good example, Congregation Emanu has been brought nearer to you, O God, to know you with our deepest selves. May the legacy and the sacred memories of these 75 years uplift and inspire us to continue sustaining this congregation with love and spirit and vigor. May we learn to share its vision with others, and may the sharing become our strength. O God, confirm our hopes and strengthen our devotion, that our heritage may bring us joy and strengthen the generations yet to come. We ask your blessing on this congregation and on those whose vision and values brought it into being. Grant us many more years of growth and flourishing, and may the true meaning of Emmanuel be implanted in our hearts, that God is with us. And through us, may your name be sanctified and magnified forever. Amen. You may remain standing as I invite the rest of the congregation to rise with you to share together the words of a prophetic vision, the words of Alenu l'Shabeach, with which we express our hope that the world continues to be redeemed and bring all of us toward that redemption. The words are in your Shabbat handout.
Let us adore
As we continue the sacred work of memory, it is a pleasure for me to invite Rabbi Walter to the bima.
Page 293. Our thoughts turn now to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, and the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. Tonight, our hearts go out in sympathy to the families of Evelyn Grossman, Morris Glesby, Leonid Boryovsky, Lawrence Lane, and Harold Kaplan, laid to their eternal rest this week. And from across the years, we recall the names of tonight's yahrzeits. Zimor B. Ablon, Dorothy Ablon Ross, Dorsey Barnes, Fanny Cohen Behar, Wilbur Bernstein, Helen L. Birnbaum, Ann Blick, Abraham Bobat, Howard Bornett, Sidney Brown, Babette Bergauer, Martin H. Byron, Betty Calderon, Louis Milton Kaplan, Catherine Sersansky, Leonard Swede Sersansky, Yanov Kogan, Samuel Kosaya, Max Davis, Beatrice Dubinsky, Shirley Edloff, Larry Ellis, Sidney Engelhart, Jerome Epstein, Shirley Norman Farkas, Arlene Feld, Elizabeth Fisher, Jeanette Fisher, Daniel Stephen Frank, Max Frosch, Ben Gates, Sidney Lloyd Gaines, Israel Gelfond, Gertrude Gerson, Norman Getz, Rosetta Simon Gibson, Jack J. Gimbel, Willie E. Glave, Edith Gold, Anna Mae Goldberg, Johanna Goldberg, Maxwell Goldenberg, Emmylou Golgar, Oscar Goldshine, Helen L. Goldstein, Celia Gomberg, Gerald Gordon, Rory Mark Greenberg, Eva Grevsky, Perry Edward Gross, Sylvia Goodell, Dan Halprin, Evelyn Etame Hartfield, Marty Hassan, Leo Hoffman, Harry A. Horn, Eva Engler Hurwitz, Beverly Jacobs, Max Jacobson, Paul Josloff, Rosa Calder, Harry Kalmans, Ray Kalmans, Stephen Can, Stanley Kaplan, Meyer Caro, Ruby Perler Karp, Ida Dropkin Klein, Seymour Kovnat, Fanny G. Lack, Nathan Lambert, Annette Palin Larson, Max Lemmel, Sam Lemson, Ernestine Leon, William Levine, Sadie Levine, Ann Levinson, Ilsa Levy, Bernice Lipkin, David Littman, Evelyn Maltz, Sylvia Weil Marcuse, Max Margulies, Roberta Marks, Sadie Cohen Marks, Julian Alec Mattis, Meyer Mellinger, Donald Marvin Meyer, Abraham Moskowitz, Jerry Motley, Martin Nadelman, Esther Noble, Pearl Paley, James Drew Perot, Ida Pessis, Barbara Singer Phillips, Elliot S. Phillips, Jack Pollock, Eleanor Wolfe Poplack, Hortense Porter, Seymour Ratty, Henrietta Hankey Flexman Rapp, Ann Rath, Maxine Mickey Remmels, Dorothy Rosenblum, Marvin Rosemarin, Frida Spear Rubenstein, Aline Sander, Edward J. Schiff, George Schnitzer, Harry Schraber, Cecile Wexler Schumann, Robert Schwartz, Gloria L. Sharney, Molly Chasnoff Scheinberg, Manuel Sherman, Emil Sherman, Don S. Scheidler, Sam Schneiderson, Hyman Siff, Max Silverstein, David A. Slavin, Patricia Sofer, Tony Stern, Dorothy Sosnow Strauss, Irvin N. Tarsus, Murray Taylor, Jerry Van, Marvin Vexler, Bernice Wagman, Lawrence Buddy Weiser, Brian Weiss, I.B. Westheimer Jr., Bernice Wilkenfeld, Jesse Wilkenfeld, Sheba Kaplan Zeitman, Arthur Zeidel, Francis N. Zimmerman, Elsie Zinn, Alice L. Zucker, and William Zucker. And tonight, in memory, one by one, we miss the voices we used to hear. One by one they leave us. Sad they are gone. Better they were here. As we recite Kaddish for our loved ones tonight, we think especially of our founders and past presidents who forged the amazing congregation they named Emanu. The name they chose 75 years ago in the midst of the world's greatest battle against tyranny and oppression, reminding us always that God is with us in our work, and we are with God in our work. The words they chose to adorn the walls of this sanctuary are their ever-present message to us, to be a light unto the nations, and to do justly, love mercy, walk humbly with God, whose name we are about to praise in our Kaddish prayer. There is no mention of death in our prayer, only words of praise in praise of God. Tonight, especially in praise of God, giving thanks for the men and women who founded, led, and shaped this congregation and us. Their vision, this adventure of the Spirit, is our inheritance and inspiration, an enduring call to live as they did by the sacred words on these walls. As I read the names of our deceased leaders, if you are a family member of the person whose name I call, I ask you to rise in honor of their memory. Founding Rabbi, Robert I. Kahn. Founding President, Nathan J. Klein. Second President, Mose M. Feld. Third President, Herman Krakauer. Fourth President, Martin Nadelman. Fifth President, Abe Ilack. Sixth President, Daniel Hirsch. Seventh President, William Nathan. Eighth President, Melvin A. Silverman. Ninth President, Louis L. Sline. 10th President, Ben Blum. 11th President, Dean M. Myers. 12th President, Robert Cohen. 13th President, Harry Levitt. 14th President, Alton Lipkin. 16th President, Leonard Swede-Sersansky. 17th President, Michael Spillane. 18th President, Al Schulman. 19th President, Ed Wolf. 20th President, Sanford I. Lack. 21st President, David L. May. 23rd President, Larry J. Sacknowitz. 24th President, Richard E. Plum. 29th President, Ellen Penner. 34th President, Stephen Weingarten. And now, if you are a family member of any of our deceased founders, would you also rise in honor of their memory as well? And would you all now join together as a Kehillah Kadosha, a sacred congregation, in reciting the words of our ancient prayer of praise, tonight thanking God for the men and women who during their lifetimes led us on this sacred journey, this adventure of the Spirit, the one we continue to call Emmanuel. Page 294, we read together. Yid Gadal v'Yid Kadash Shemei Rabbah B'olma Divra Chirute v'Yamlich Malchute B'chaye Chon Yomei Chon v'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala Gan Karib Imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Olamei Olmaya Yid Barach v'Yishtabach v'Yid Pa'ar v'Yid Ramam v'Yid Naseh V'Yid Hadar v'Yid Haleh v'Yid Halal Shemei D'Kudisha Barichu La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'yolma v'imru amen. Yehi Shlomo Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom
b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol
You may be seated. I want to invite J.J. Silk back to the bima to lead us in the blessings of Kiddush and Motzi along with his sister Ava as they make their way up. Our blessings are in our prayer books on page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu Zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit Ki hu yom tehila lemikraye kodesh Teher letziat mitzrayim Ki vanu v'acharta V'yotanu kiddashta Mikol ha'alim V'shabbat kodshecha Be'ahava uratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
Amen. L'chaim.
Sure. Take off the cover so you can do the blessing. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Our closing song, Ein Keloheinu, can be found on page 322. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadoshenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mi Keloheinu, Mi Adonenu, Mi Kemalkeinu, Mi Kemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu
Please rise. Ribono shel olam, eternal Spirit of the universe. You are with those who came before us, and you shed your blessing upon them. Be with us as well. May a measure of your Spirit rest on us and our good works. Share with us the spirit of courage that gives way to leadership of vision. Be with us even when times are dark, so that we can make our way forward to a time that is full of light and joy, goodness and peace. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. I love
Beautiful.
I love what you did.
Thank you.